In a small town in the middle of nowhere, life moved at a slow pace. Laura Bennett lived there with her 2 children, Ethan and Sophie. It wasn't a fancy place, but it was home. The house had a creaky wooden floor, a backyard that needed mowing, and a mailbox that leaned slightly to one side. Laura worked as a receptionist at a local clinic during the day, and in her free time she made sure everything around her ran smoothly, whether it was fixing a broken light bulb or making sure the neighbors didn't park too close to her driveway. Laura was known for being tough when things didn't go her way. If someone cut her off in traffic, she'd give them a piece of her mind. If a store sold her something defective, she wouldn't hesitate to march back inside and demand a refund or an apology. People often joked about how Laura could argue her way out of anything. Some called her stubborn, others admired her determination. But everyone agreed on one thing: you didn't want to mess with Laura if you got on her bad side. Ethan, her 10-year-old son, loved building model spaceships and dreaming about adventures among the stars. Sophie, who was 8, spent most of her time drawing pictures of animals and planets. They were good kids, always polite and curious about the world. Laura adored them more than anything else in the universe. She might have been strict sometimes, especially when they forgot to clean their rooms or left toys scattered across the living room floor. But deep down, she knew they were her greatest joy. On a warm summer evening, Laura decided to run some errands after work. She told Ethan and Sophie to stay inside and finish their homework while she went to pick up groceries and drop off a package at the post office. "I'll be back in an hour," she said firmly before heading out the door. The kids waved goodbye, already distracted by the cartoons playing on TV. Little did Laura know, this ordinary trip would change everything. As soon as she drove away, the sky above the quiet neighborhood began to shimmer. A low hum filled the air, growing louder with each passing second. Neighbors peeked out of their windows, wondering what the strange noise could be. Then, without warning, a massive silver spaceship descended silently over the Bennett household. Its surface gleamed like polished metal, reflecting the fading sunlight. It hovered just above the roof, casting a shadow over the entire yard. Inside the ship, members of the Galactic Empire prepared to carry out their mission. Their leader, Commander Varek, had received orders to collect intelligent young humans for assimilation into their advanced society. Earthlings were considered primitive, but certain individuals showed potential for greatness. After scanning the area, the crew identified Ethan and Sophie as ideal candidates based on their creativity and problem-solving skills. The aliens deployed a beam of light that enveloped the house. Ethan and Sophie barely had time to react before they felt themselves lifted off the ground. The last thing they saw was the familiar sight of their living room disappearing beneath them. Within moments, they were aboard the spaceship, staring wide-eyed at the towering figures in metallic suits. Back at the grocery store, Laura stood in line, tapping her foot impatiently as the cashier scanned item after item. She glanced at her watch, realizing she still needed to stop by the pharmacy. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. It was probably another spam call, but she ignored it. Nothing seemed unusual. Yet, when Laura finally returned home, the first thing she noticed was the eerie silence. The house was dark, and the TV was off. That alone set off alarms in her head because Ethan and Sophie rarely sat quietly for long. "Ethan? Sophie?" she called out, stepping inside. No answer. She checked their rooms, the kitchen, even the bathroom, but they were nowhere to be found. Panic started creeping in. Laura rushed outside to see if they had wandered into the yard. That's when she spotted the scorch marks on the grass. They looked fresh, almost glowing faintly against the green blades. Something big had landed here, and recently. Laura's heart raced as she pieced together what might have happened. Aliens? Really? She shook her head, trying to dismiss the thought, but the evidence was right in front of her. Determined to find answers, Laura grabbed her phone and dialed phone 11. When the operator answered, she explained the situation as calmly as she could. "My kids are missing," she said, "and I think they've been abducted by aliens." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "Ma'am, are you sure you're feeling okay?" the operator asked hesitantly. "I'm serious." Laura snapped, "Look at my yard. There are burn marks everywhere. My kids are gone. Despite her insistence, the operator suggested she file a report with the local police. Frustrated but unwilling to give up, Laura hung up and called every number she could think of: the sheriff's department, the FBI, even NASA. Each call ended the same way: disbelief followed by vague promises to look into it. Hours passed, and Laura grew angrier with each passing minute. How could no one take her seriously? Didn't these people realize her children were out there, possibly scared and alone? Sitting at the kitchen table, she stared at the scorch marks through the window. Her mind raced with possibilities. If the authorities weren't going to help, then she would have to do something herself. Laura opened her laptop and began searching online for information about alien abductions. She scrolled through forums, Reddit threads, and conspiracy websites until she stumbled upon a post that caught her attention. Someone claimed their cousin had been taken by the Galactic Empire, a powerful interstellar civilization rumored to abduct intelligent beings from various planets. According to the post, the Empire sought to integrate promising individuals into their ranks, using them to bolster their dominance across the galaxy. The more Laura read, the clearer it became. Ethan and Sophie weren't random victims. They had been targeted for a reason, and if the Galactic Empire thought they could take her kids without consequences, they were dead wrong. Fueled by anger and determination, Laura devised a plan. First, she needed proof. She snapped photos of the scorch marks and uploaded them to social media, tagging every news outlet and government agency she could think of. Then she drafted a message addressed directly to the Galactic Empire. "To whoever took my children," she wrote, her voice trembling with rage, "you have made the biggest mistake of your lives. Bring them back, or I will come for you myself." She hit send, knowing full well it sounded ridiculous. Who talks to aliens like that? But Laura didn't care. This wasn't just about finding her kids anymore. It was about sending a message. She wasn't going to sit around waiting for someone else to fix this. She was Laura Bennett, and she wasn't afraid to fight, even if it meant taking on an entire empire. Unbeknownst to her, the Galactic Empire intercepted her transmission. Emperor Kale, intrigued by her boldness, ordered his advisors to investigate further. They laughed at her threats, dismissing her as a mere human with no real power. What harm could she possibly do? What they didn't realize was that Laura wasn't just any human. She was a mother, and mothers like her didn't give up. Not for anything. Laura Bennett wasn't the type of person to sit around and wait for answers. Once she set her mind on something, there was no stopping her. After sending her fiery message to the Galactic Empire, she knew she couldn't just rely on words. She needed action, a plan that would bring her children back home. But how do you fight an advanced alien civilization when you're just a mom from a small town? For Laura, the answer was simple. You figure it out. The first step was gathering information. Laura spent hours on her laptop diving deeper into online forums and Reddit threads about alien encounters. Most of the posts were wild theories or hoaxes, but some contained useful tidbits, details about the Galactic Empire's technology, their motivations, and even rumors of past abductions. One name kept popping up: Richard Hayes, a retired astrophysicist who claimed to have studied extraterrestrial activity for decades. According to his profile, he lived less than 2 hours away. Without wasting any time, Laura jumped into her car and drove to Richard's house. His home was tucked away in the woods, surrounded by tall trees and overgrown bushes. When she knocked on the door, a grumpy old man with messy gray hair answered. He squinted at her through thick glasses, clearly annoyed by the unexpected visitor. "What do you want?" Richard asked, his voice rough and impatient. "I need your help," Laura said firmly. "My kids were abducted by aliens, and I think they're part of the Galactic Empire." Richard let out a sarcastic laugh. "Right, sure. Aliens. Why don't you call Mulder and Scully while you're at it?" Laura crossed her arms and glared at him. "Look, I don't have time for jokes. I know you've studied this stuff. If you don't help me, fine, but don't waste my time pretending you don't care." Her tone caught Richard off guard. He hesitated for a moment, then sighed. "Come in," he muttered, stepping aside. Inside, the house was cluttered with books, papers, and strange gadgets scattered across every surface. A dusty telescope stood near the window, pointing toward the night sky. Laura explained everything. That had happened. The abduction, the scorch marks, her calls to authorities, and her determination to find Ethan and Sophie. To her surprise, Richard listened intently, occasionally nodding as if he understood exactly what she was going through. When she finished, Richard leaned back in his chair. If what you're saying is true, and I'm not saying it is, you're dealing with forces way beyond anything humans are prepared for. The Galactic Empire doesn't mess around. They're ruthless, efficient, and completely convinced of their superiority. Well, they messed with the wrong mom. Laura shot back. I'm not asking you to fight them for me. I just need your help figuring out how to communicate with them, or at least track them down. Richard raised an eyebrow. You're serious about this, aren't you? Dead serious. After a long pause, Richard nodded. All right, let's see what we can do. Over the next few days, Laura practically moved into Richard's house. Together, they pored over his research, piecing together clues about the Galactic Empire's communication systems. Richard had an old satellite dish in his backyard that he used to monitor signals from space. It was outdated and barely functional, but with Laura's relentless energy, they managed to modify it into a rudimentary transmitter capable of sending messages to nearby star systems. While Richard handled the technical side, Laura focused on crafting the perfect message. She wrote draft after draft, making sure every word conveyed her anger and resolve. In the end, she recorded a short audio clip that left no room for misunderstanding. To the Galactic Empire, you took my children, Ethan and Sophie Bennett. I don't know why, and I don't care. All I know is that you made the biggest mistake of your lives. Bring them back to me immediately, or I will come for you myself. This isn't a negotiation, it's a warning. You've been warned. When the message was ready, Richard aimed the modified satellite dish toward the coordinates of the Empire's nearest outpost and hit send. Neither of them knew if it would work, but Laura felt a spark of hope. At least now they were doing something. Meanwhile, aboard one of the Empire's massive starships, Emperor Kale sat on his throne, listening to reports from his advisors. The transmission from Earth had reached their communications array, and the technicians couldn't believe what they were hearing. A human female, a primitive creature from a backwater planet, had dared to threaten the mighty Galactic Empire. Kale leaned forward, intrigued. Play it again, he commanded. The recording echoed through the chamber, filling the room with Laura's fierce voice. Her words were blunt and unpolished, lacking the formalities expected in interstellar diplomacy. Yet there was something compelling about her tone. Raw determination mixed with pure indignation. She sounds angry, one advisor remarked, cautiously. Angry? Kyle chuckled. She sounds like a child throwing a tantrum. What harm could she possibly do? Another advisor stepped forward. Your Majesty, perhaps it's best to ignore her. Humans are irrelevant. Their emotions are unpredictable, but they lack the means to challenge us. Kale stroked his chin thoughtfully. Normally, he would have agreed. Humans were nothing more than minor curiosities to the Empire. But something about this particular human intrigued him. Her audacity, her refusal to back down. It reminded him of qualities the Empire valued in its own soldiers. Perhaps she deserved closer scrutiny. Send a probe to investigate, Kyle ordered. Find out who this woman is and what she's capable of. And keep an eye on those children. If they truly belong to her, we may have underestimated their potential. Back on Earth, Laura waited anxiously for a response. Days passed with no sign of the Empire's reply. Doubts began creeping into her mind. Had her message even reached them? Was she wasting her time chasing shadows? But Laura refused to give up. If the Galactic Empire thought they could ignore her, they were sorely mistaken. She decided to take her campaign to the next level. Using social media, she posted updates under the username Ruthless Karen 42. Her posts quickly gained traction, drawing attention from people all over the world. Many shared stories of loved ones who had mysteriously disappeared, claiming similar burn marks had been left behind. Others offered support, donating money or resources to help Laura in her quest. Inspired by the growing movement, Laura renamed her makeshift headquarters Team Karen. She turned Richard's cluttered living room into a command center, complete with maps of the solar system, notes on alien technology, and a whiteboard filled with ideas. Volunteers joined her cause, some traveling from neighboring towns just to lend a hand. One evening, as Laura scrolled through messages from supporters, she came across a comment that gave her chills. "If anyone can take on an entire empire, it's you," the user wrote. "Good luck, Karen, we're rooting for you." For the first time since the abduction, Laura allowed herself a small smile. She might be outnumbered and outgunned, but she wasn't alone. With Team Karen behind her, she felt unstoppable. Still, Laura knew that words and hashtags wouldn't be enough to bring Ethan and Sophie home. She needed a way to confront the Empire directly. That meant finding a spaceship and learning how to fly it. It sounded impossible, but Laura had faced harder challenges before. She started researching private space exploration companies, hoping to find a vessel that had been abandoned or forgotten. Most leads ended in disappointment, but eventually, she discovered a small startup that had gone bankrupt years ago. Their prototype ship, called the Determination, had never been launched due to funding issues. Now it sat collecting dust in a remote hangar. With Richard's help, Laura negotiated a deal to acquire the ship. It wasn't state-of-the-art, but it was functional, and it was hers. Over the next week, she threw herself into learning everything she could about piloting. YouTube tutorials became her best friend, and she practiced simulations until her eyes burned from staring at screens. As the days turned into weeks, Laura transformed from an ordinary mother into someone extraordinary. She wasn't just fighting for Ethan and Sophie anymore. She was fighting for everyone who had ever felt powerless against forces beyond their control. And when the time came to launch the Determination, she was ready. Standing on the edge of the hangar, Laura took a deep breath. The ship gleamed under the lights, its sleek design reflecting her determination. Behind her, members of Team Karen cheered, holding signs that read, "Bring them home and fear the Karen." Laura turned to face them, her expression fierce yet grateful. "This isn't just about my kids," she said, her voice steady. "This is about proving that we won't stand by while others decide our fate. We're taking back what's ours, and showing the galaxy that Earth isn't afraid to fight." With that, Laura climbed aboard the Determination. As the engines roared to life, she gripped the controls tightly, her heart pounding with anticipation. The journey ahead would be dangerous, but she didn't care. She had a mission, and nothing, not even an entire empire, would stop her. Laura Bennett wasn't used to flying spaceships. In fact, before this whole ordeal began, she hadn't even thought about leaving Earth's atmosphere. But now, sitting in the pilot's seat of the Determination, she felt a strange mix of fear and excitement. This was it, the moment she had been working toward. No turning back now. The ship rumbled as its engines warmed up, filling the hangar with a low hum. Laura checked the controls one last time, making sure everything was set for launch. "Richard," Hayes stood outside the ship, shouting instructions through the open hatch. "Remember, keep your speed steady once you hit orbit," he called out. "And don't forget to calibrate the navigation system." "I got it," Laura yelled back, her voice tinged with both irritation and gratitude. She appreciated Richard's help, but his constant reminders were starting to wear on her nerves. Still, she knew he meant well. Without him, none of this would have been possible. As the countdown timer reached 0, Laura took a deep breath and pushed the throttle forward. The ship surged upward, pressing her into her seat. The ground disappeared beneath her, replaced by clouds and then the vast expanse of space. For a moment, she forgot about her mission and just stared out the window at the stars. They were brighter than she'd ever imagined, glittering like diamonds scattered across an endless black canvas. But the beauty of space didn't distract her for long. Laura quickly refocused on her goal, finding the Galactic Empire and bringing Ethan and Sophie home. She activated the ship's navigation system, which Richard had programmed with the coordinates of the Empire's nearest outpost. According to his calculations, it would take several days to reach their destination. That gave Laura plenty of time to prepare for whatever lay ahead. During the journey, Laura kept herself busy. She reviewed the notes she and Richard had compiled about the Empire's technology, military tactics, and weaknesses. She practiced flying maneuvers using the ship's simulator, determined to master every aspect of piloting. And whenever she felt overwhelmed, she reminded herself why she was doing this. Ethan and Sophie were counting on her. She couldn't fail them. Back on the Galactic Empire's outpost, Ethan and Sophie were adjusting to their new reality, or at least trying to. The aliens had placed them in a large room filled with other abducted children from various planets. At first, the siblings clung to each other, scared and confused. But as they observed their surroundings, they realized something important. Not all the kids were afraid. Some seemed almost excited, eager to learn and explore. One boy, a blue-skinned alien named Zin, introduced himself to Ethan and Sophie. "Don't worry," he said with a grin. "They're not going to hurt us. They just want to see what we can do." "What do you mean?" Sophie asked, clutching her brother's arm. "They test us," Zin explained. "Puzzles, games, challenges. If you do well, they reward you. If you don't, well, let's just say it's better to succeed." Ethan frowned. "That doesn't sound fair." "Life isn't fair," Zin replied with a shrug. "But we can handle it, right?" Sophie nodded hesitantly, though Ethan still looked skeptical. Despite their uncertainty, the siblings decided to follow Zin's advice. Over the next few days, they threw themselves into the tasks assigned to them, determined to prove their worth. Ethan excelled at solving complex puzzles, while Sophie showed remarkable creativity in designing solutions to engineering problems. The aliens overseeing the tests watched closely, taking notes and occasionally nodding in approval. Meanwhile, Emperor Kale continued to monitor developments on Earth. His initial curiosity about Laura had grown into genuine fascination. Reports from the probe sent to investigate described her as relentless, resourceful, and utterly fearless. Videos of her rallying supporters online spread throughout the Empire, sparking debates among Kale's advisors. "She's mobilizing others," one advisor warned during a meeting. "If she convinces enough humans to resist us, it could become problematic." Kale waved a dismissive hand. "Humans are divided and disorganized. Even if she gains followers, they lack the tools to challenge us." "But Your Majesty," another advisor chimed in, "her determination is unusual. She's already acquired a spaceship and is heading toward our outpost. Shouldn't we intercept her before she arrives?" Kale leaned back in his throne, considering the suggestion. "No," he finally said. "Let her come. I want to see how far she'll go. Besides, her children are here. Perhaps we can use them to negotiate." The advisors exchanged uneasy glances but didn't argue further. Kale's decisions were final, and questioning him too much could lead to unpleasant consequences. As the determination approached the outpost, Laura felt a surge of adrenaline. She had spent countless hours preparing for this moment. And now, it was finally here. The outpost loomed in front of her, a massive structure floating in the void of space, bristling with weapons and glowing with energy. It looked intimidating, but Laura refused to let fear take hold. She activated the ship's communication system and hailed the outpost. "This is Laura Bennett aboard the Determination. I'm here for my children. Hand them over, or I'll make you regret it." Her message echoed through the outpost's command center, drawing murmurs of disbelief from the crew. Commander Varric, who had led the abduction team, stepped forward. "Shall we destroy her ship, Your Majesty?" he asked, addressing Kale via hologram. "No," Kale replied calmly. "Bring her aboard. Let's see what she's made of." Moments later, a tractor beam locked onto the Determination, pulling it toward the outpost's docking bay. Laura gripped the controls tightly as the ship was guided inside. When the hatch opened, a group of armored guards awaited her, their weapons trained on her. Laura stepped out, raising her hands slightly to show she wasn't armed, but her expression remained defiant. "You must be Laura Bennett," one of the guards said, his voice distorted by his helmet. "Follow us." Laura obeyed, keeping her eyes sharp as she scanned her surroundings. The outpost was sleek and sterile, with metallic walls and glowing panels lining the corridors. As she walked, she noticed other humans being escorted by guards. Some looked scared, while others appeared resigned to their fate. Laura clenched her fists, vowing silently to change that. They led her to a large chamber where Emperor Kale sat on a raised platform, flanked by advisors and soldiers. He studied her intently as she entered, his piercing gaze assessing every detail. Laura met his stare without flinching, her chin held high. "So," Kale began, his voice smooth and commanding, "you're the human who dared to threaten the Galactic Empire." "That's right," Laura shot back, "and I'm not leaving without my kids." Kale smirked. "Bold words for someone so insignificant. Do you really believe you stand a chance against us?" Laura crossed her arms. "I don't need to believe anything. I'm here, aren't I? You underestimated me once. Don't make the same mistake." "Twice." Kale leaned forward, intrigued. "Very well. Prove your worth, Laura Bennett. If you succeed, I may consider returning your children. Fail, and you'll join them as prisoners." Laura narrowed her eyes. "What kind of test are we talking about?" Kale gestured to a nearby screen which displayed a series of challenges. "Intelligence, strategy, endurance. We'll see if you're as capable as you claim." Laura didn't hesitate. "Fine. Let's get started." As the guards led her to the testing area, Laura felt a flicker of doubt, but only for a second. She had faced impossible odds before, and she had always found a way to win. This wouldn't be any different. Whatever the Empire threw at her, she would overcome it. For Ethan and Sophie, there was no other option. The testing area inside the Galactic Empire's outpost was unlike anything Laura had ever seen. It was a vast chamber filled with strange machines, glowing screens, and holographic projections that shifted and changed as if alive. The air smelled, faintly, of metal and electricity, and the hum of technology echoed all around her. Laura tried to stay calm, but her heart raced as she took in the scene. This wasn't just a test, it was a battlefield, and she was about to face challenges, designed to break her. The first task was simple enough, or so it seemed. The aliens placed Laura in front of a large screen displaying rows of symbols she didn't recognize. A guard explained that she needed to match the symbols based on patterns hidden within them. If she failed, the screen would lock her out, and she'd lose precious time. Laura stared at the symbols, her mind racing. She had always been good at puzzles, but these were completely foreign. Still, she refused to give up. Squinting at the screen, she noticed subtle differences between the shapes. Curves here, angles there. Slowly, she began matching them, one pair at a time. Her progress was slow, but steady. When she finally completed the puzzle, the screen flashed green and a robotic voice announced, "Task complete." Laura let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. "One down," she muttered under her breath. But she knew this was only the beginning. The second challenge tested her ability to negotiate and argue. The aliens placed her in a simulated marketplace where holographic merchants tried to sell her overpriced goods. Each merchant used tricky language and false promises to confuse her. At first, Laura struggled to keep up, but then she remembered something. This was her element. Back on Earth, she had spent years fighting for refunds and better deals. She called upon every ounce of her experience, demanding lower prices and pointing out flaws in their products. "You can't charge me that much for a broken widget," she snapped at one merchant. "And don't even try to tell me it's limited edition. I've seen better widgets at half the price." The holographic merchants grew flustered under her relentless complaints. One by one, they gave in to her demands, lowering their prices until Laura had successfully negotiated the best deal possible. The robotic voice returned, saying, "Task complete." By now, the guards watching her were exchanging glances. They hadn't expected a human to perform so well, or to be so infuriatingly persistent. Emperor Kale, observing from his throne room, leaned forward with genuine interest. "She's clever. he admitted to his advisors. Perhaps too clever. The third challenge was physical. Laura found herself in a maze-like obstacle course filled with moving platforms, laser beams, and narrow pathways suspended high above the ground. The goal was to reach the end without falling or triggering any traps. Laura hesitated at the entrance, looking at the dizzying heights and intricate design. She wasn't an athlete, and climbing wasn't exactly her strong suit. But she reminded herself why she was here. Ethan and Sophie were counting on her. Taking a deep breath, Laura stepped onto the first platform. She moved cautiously, testing each step before committing her weight. When she reached a section with laser beams crisscrossing the path, she crouched low and crawled underneath, her heart pounding. At one point, a platform shifted unexpectedly, nearly causing her to lose her balance. But she grabbed onto a railing just in time, pulling herself back up. "Come on, Laura," she whispered to herself. "You've got this." After what felt like hours, she finally reached the end of the course. Exhausted but triumphant, she stood tall as the robotic voice declared, "Task complete." While Laura faced the challenges, Ethan and Sophie were busy causing chaos within the outpost. Inspired by their mother's determination, they decided to fight back in their own way. Using bits of scrap metal and tools they found lying around, they built small devices designed to disrupt the Empire's systems. One gadget emitted a high-pitched noise that confused the guards' communication devices, while another created fake error messages on the outpost's control panels. At first, the siblings worked quietly, sneaking around when no one was looking. But as their confidence grew, they became bolder. Sophie painted graffiti on the walls using colorful chemicals she mixed together, spelling out messages like, "Free us," and "Fear the Karen." Ethan hacked into the outpost's entertainment system, playing recordings of their mom's fiery threats over the intercom. The sound of Laura's voice echoing through the corridors sent shockwaves of panic among the crew. "What is going on?" Commander Varric demanded, storming into the control room. "Why does that human woman keep showing up everywhere?" The technicians scrambled to fix the problems, but Ethan and Sophie stayed one step ahead. Their antics not only distracted the guards, but also boosted morale among the other abducted children. For the first time since arriving, the kids began to believe they could resist their captors. Back in the testing area, Laura tackled her final challenge, a battle simulation. She was placed in a virtual arena where holographic enemies attacked from all sides. Armed with a basic blaster, Laura had to defend herself while navigating the chaotic environment. The enemies were fast and relentless, forcing her to think quickly and move even faster. Laura fired shot after shot, dodging blasts and rolling behind cover whenever necessary. She didn't have much combat experience, but her instincts kicked in. She remembered Richard's advice about staying calm under pressure and focused on surviving. One by one, the holographic enemies disappeared, leaving Laura standing alone in the center of the arena. For a moment, everything was silent. Then the robotic voice announced, "All tasks complete." Laura dropped the blaster and caught her breath, her body aching from the effort. She had done it. Against all odds, she had passed every challenge thrown at her. As the guards led her back to the main chamber, she couldn't help but feel a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, she could win this. When Laura entered the chamber, Emperor Kale rose from his throne, his expression unreadable. He studied her for a long moment before speaking. "You've proven yourself resourceful, Laura Bennett. Few humans or anyone else could have succeeded in those tests. Does that mean you'll return my kids?" Laura asked, her tone firm but hopeful. Kyle hesitated. "Perhaps. But first you must understand the consequences of your actions. The Galactic Empire does not tolerate defiance lightly." Laura crossed her arms. "I'm not defying you because I enjoy it. I'm doing this because you took what matters most to me. Now, are you going to give me my children, or do I need to keep fighting?" Kyle smirked, impressed despite himself. "Very well. You may see them, but know this. Your actions today will have repercussions. The Empire does not forget." With a wave of his hand, Kale ordered the guards to bring Ethan and Sophie to the chamber. Moments later, the doors opened, and Laura's heart soared as her children ran toward her, tears streaming down their faces. "Mom," Ethan shouted, throwing his arms around her. "We missed you so much," Sophie added, hugging her tightly. Laura held them close, overwhelmed with relief and love. "I'm here now," she whispered. "Everything's going to be okay." As the family reunited, the other abducted children watched in awe. Laura had done the impossible. She had stood up to the Galactic Empire and won. And though the battle wasn't over yet, she had shown everyone that resistance was possible, even against overwhelming odds. The reunion between Laura and her children was short-lived. As Ethan and Sophie clung to their mother, Emperor Kale stepped forward, his towering presence casting a shadow over the room. He looked down at the family with a mix of curiosity and irritation. Laura tightened her grip on her kids, ready to shield them if necessary. "While I admire your determination," Kale began, his voice smooth but sharp, "you must understand that the Galactic Empire operates for a greater purpose. Your children were chosen because they possess qualities valuable to our society. Their potential is too great to waste." Laura glared at him, her anger simmering just beneath the surface. "And who gave you the right to decide what happens? To my kids? They're not tools or experiments, they're my family." Kyle raised an eyebrow, amused by her defiance. "You speak boldly, but you misunderstand. The Empire's goals benefit countless civilizations across the galaxy. Sacrifices are sometimes required for progress." Ethan tugged at Laura's sleeve, whispering, "Mom, what does he mean?" Laura knelt down to meet her son's worried eyes. "Don't worry, sweetie. No one's taking you away from me again." Standing back up, she turned to Kale. "Listen carefully. I didn't come all this way to negotiate or compromise. My kids are coming home, with or without your permission, Theo." Emperor studied her for a moment, then gestured to his guards. "Take them to holding cells. We'll discuss their fate later." Before anyone could move, Sophie stepped forward, surprising everyone. "If you think we're going quietly, you're wrong," she shouted, pulling a small device from her pocket, the same gadget she and Ethan had used to disrupt the outpost's systems earlier. With a flick of her wrist, she activated it, causing alarms to blare throughout the chamber. Chaos erupted as lights flashed and holographic screens malfunctioned. Guards scrambled to regain control, but Ethan and Sophie darted around the room, tossing more gadgets they had hidden in their pockets. Sparks flew, and the air filled with static. Laura seized the opportunity, grabbing her children's hands and making a run for the exit. "This way," she yelled, leading them through the confusion. The guards pursued them, shouting orders into their comms, but Laura's quick thinking kept them ahead. She remembered the layout of the outpost from her earlier tour and guided the group toward the docking bay where the Determination was parked. As they ran, Ethan glanced over his shoulder. "Mom, how are we supposed to escape? There are too many of them." "We'll figure it out," Laura replied firmly. "Just keep moving." When they reached the docking bay, Laura spotted a squad of guards blocking the entrance to the ship. Thinking fast, she grabbed a nearby tool, a long metal rod, and brandished it like a weapon. "Stay back," she warned, her voice loud and commanding. "I'm not afraid to use this." The guards hesitated, unsure how to handle such an unpredictable human. Taking advantage of their uncertainty, Laura charged forward, swinging the rod wildly. Though she wasn't trained in combat, her sheer determination caught the guards off guard. One by one, they stumbled back, allowing Laura and her kids to slip past. Once aboard the Determination, Laura wasted no time firing up the engines. The ship rumbled to life, shaking violently as the guards outside tried to disable it. Ethan and Sophie strapped themselves into seats, gripping the armrests tightly as the vessel lifted off the ground. "Hang on," Laura shouted, pushing the throttle forward. The ship surged ahead, breaking free from the outpost's tractor beam. Alarms blared behind them as they sped into open space, leaving the Galactic Empire far behind. For a few moments, silence filled the cockpit. Laura slumped into her seat, her body trembling from exhaustion but her heart swelling with relief. Ethan and Sophie stared at her, their faces lit with admiration. "You did it, Mom," Sophie exclaimed, hugging her tightly. "You saved us." "Laura," smiled weakly. We did it together. You two were amazing back there. Ethan nodded eagerly. Yeah, those gadgets really worked. We should build more stuff like that when we get home. Laura chuckled softly, though her mind was already racing with thoughts of what came next. Escaping the outpost was only half the battle. The Galactic Empire wouldn't let them go so easily. Not after everything that had happened. And while Laura felt proud of herself and her kids, she knew they weren't safe yet. Back at the outpost, Emperor Kale paced furiously in the command center. His advisors stood nervously nearby, avoiding eye contact as he vented his frustration. How could this happen? He demanded, slamming his fist onto a console. A primitive human managed to infiltrate our facility, disrupt operations, and escape with her children. Do you realize how embarrassing this is? One advisor cleared his throat cautiously. Your Majesty, perhaps we underestimated her resolve. Humans are known for their unpredictability, but this level of resourcefulness is unusual. Kale stopped pacing and turned to face them, his expression darkening. Unusual doesn't begin to cover it. This woman has humiliated us. If word gets out about this failure, it could undermine the Empire's authority. What do you propose we do, Your Majesty? Another advisor asked timidly. Kale paused, considering his options. After a moment, a sly smile spread across his face. We won't chase her. Not directly anyway. Instead, we'll send a message. A reminder that no one defies the Galactic Empire without consequences. He tapped a button on his wrist, summoning Commander Varric to the chamber. When the commander arrived, Kale gave him a single order. Deploy drones to track their ship, let them know we're watching, and prepare reinforcements. If they attempt anything else, we strike. Varric bowed deeply. It will be done, Your Majesty. Meanwhile, aboard the Determination, Laura plotted their next move. Using the ship's navigation system, she searched for a safe place to regroup. Earth was still days away, and she doubted the Empire would give up so easily. She needed allies, people who understood the stakes and could help protect her family. Her thoughts drifted to Richard Hayes and Team Karen. Back on Earth, they had been working tirelessly to support her cause. Maybe it was time to call on them, again. Laura activated the ship's communication system and sent a coded message to Richard explaining what had happened and requesting backup. Within hours, Richard responded. Laura, you've done the impossible. His voice crackled through the speakers. But you're not alone. We've rallied volunteers, gathered resources, and even contacted other planets affected by the Empire's actions. You've inspired people to fight back. Tears welled up in Laura's eyes as she listened. For so long she had felt like the entire universe was against her. But now she realized she wasn't fighting alone anymore. Together, they might stand a chance. Thank you, Richard, she said softly. Tell everyone to be ready, this isn't over yet. As the Determination continued its journey toward Earth, Laura felt a renewed sense of purpose. She had proven that even the most powerful forces could be challenged, if you refused to give up. And with her family by her side, along with a growing movement of supporters, she was ready to take the fight to the Galactic Empire. When the Determination finally touched down on Earth, Laura felt a wave of relief wash over her. The journey back had been tense, with the constant fear of pursuit from the Galactic Empire looming over them. But thanks to Richard Hayes and Team Karen, they had managed to stay one step ahead. Now, as the ship's engines powered down and the hatch opened, Laura stepped out into the cool night air, holding Ethan and Sophie close. A crowd of people awaited them, friends, neighbors, and strangers who had joined Team Karen's cause. They cheered loudly, waving signs that read, "Welcome back, heroes," and "Fear the Karen." Laura scanned the faces, her heart swelling with gratitude. These were ordinary people, teachers, mechanics, shopkeepers, who had come together because of her determination. Together they had formed something extraordinary. Richard pushed through the crowd, his grumpy demeanor replaced by a rare smile. "You did it," he said, shaking Laura's hand. "You really did it." Laura nodded, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "We couldn't have done it without all of you. Thank you for believing in us." As the celebration continued, Laura knew there was still work to be done. The Galactic Empire wasn't going to let this go unpunished. She had seen their power firsthand, and she understood the stakes. But for now, she allowed herself a moment of peace, savoring the joy of being reunited with her children and surrounded by allies. The next morning, Laura gathered Team Karen in Richard's cluttered living room, the same place where everything had started. Maps of the solar system covered the walls alongside notes about alien technology and strategies for resistance. Volunteers bustled around, organizing supplies and brainstorming ideas for what came next. "We've made progress," Laura began, standing at the front of the room. "But the Empire isn't finished with us. If we want to keep our freedom and protect others like Ethan and Sophie, we need to prepare for whatever they throw at us." One volunteer raised his hand. "What exactly are we up against? Are they really coming back?" "They're coming," Laura replied firmly. "And when they do, we'll be ready. We've got numbers, creativity, and most importantly, the will to fight. That's something they don't expect." Over the following days, Team Karen worked tirelessly to strengthen their defenses. Richard helped modify old satellites into early warning systems, capable of detecting incoming ships. Others set up communication networks to coordinate efforts across the globe. Laura spent hours training volunteers in basic survival skills and strategy, drawing on everything she had learned during her time in space. Ethan and Sophie pitched in too, using their ingenuity to design new gadgets. Inspired by their earlier success, they created tools that could jam enemy signals or disable drones. Their inventions became a key part of Team Karen's arsenal, earning them nicknames like the Tech Twins. Word of Laura's defiance spread far beyond Earth. Other planets affected by the Galactic Empire's actions began reaching out, offering support and resources. Some sent advanced technology, while others shared intelligence about the Empire's weaknesses. Slowly but surely, a coalition formed, a united front determined to challenge the Empire's dominance. Meanwhile, aboard the Galactic Empire's flagship, Emperor Kale stewed in frustration. Reports poured in about the growing rebellion inspired by Laura Bennett. Her name had become a symbol of resistance, whispered among oppressed populations across the galaxy. What had started as a single mother's quest to save her children had evolved into something much larger, a movement threatening the Empire's control. "This cannot continue," Kale declared during an emergency meeting with his advisors. "We must crush this uprising before it spreads further." "Commander." Varric stepped forward. "Your Majesty, our forces are prepared to strike. However, we must proceed carefully. Attacking directly could turn public opinion against us." Kale nodded thoughtfully. "Then we'll use subtlety. Deploy propaganda campaigns to discredit Laura Bennett. Portray her as reckless and dangerous. Meanwhile, focus our military efforts on dismantling her network piecemeal." Varric bowed. "It will be done." Back on Earth, Laura received warnings about the Empire's counterattack. Spies within the coalition intercepted messages detailing their plans. Instead of panicking, Laura used the information to her advantage. She called for a global broadcast addressing not just her supporters but the entire galaxy. "To the Galactic Empire," she began, her voice firm and unshaken. "You took my children, underestimated me, and tried to silence those who dared to resist. But you've awakened something you can't destroy. Hope. People everywhere are rising up, not just for themselves but for each other. Your reign of fear ends here." Her words resonated deeply. Across the galaxy, oppressed communities rallied behind Laura's message. Protests erupted on occupied planets demanding freedom and justice. Even some members of the Empire's own ranks began questioning their leaders' motives. Finally, the day of reckoning arrived. The Galactic Empire launched a massive assault on Earth, aiming to crush Team Karen once and for all. Ships descended from the sky, weapons blazing, but they were met with fierce resistance. Laura led the charge, coordinating attacks and inspiring her team to hold their ground. In the chaos, Ethan and Sophie played a crucial role. Using their gadgets, they disabled key enemy systems, giving Team Karen the upper hand. When the dust settled, The Empire's forces retreated, battered and humiliated. Emperor Cale, watching the battle unfold from his throne room, realized the truth. Laura Bennett had changed the galaxy. Her courage and determination had sparked a revolution that even the mighty Galactic Empire couldn't suppress. In the aftermath, peace treaties were signed, granting autonomy to oppressed planets and establishing protections for abducted individuals. Laura became a legend, known throughout the galaxy as the Galactic Karen, a title she wore with pride. Ethan and Sophie returned to school, their adventures becoming stories they shared with classmates. Though life slowly returned to normal, Laura remained vigilant. She knew the fight for justice was never truly over, but for now she was content knowing she had made a difference, not just for her family, but for countless others. And so, the tale of Laura Bennett served as a reminder that sometimes the smallest acts of defiance can ignite the greatest changes. All it takes is one person willing to stand up and refuse to back down.